I'm eating a grilled cheese.
Welcome to, we'll name it on the pod, episode 2, featuring Punchu, but most importantly, featuring Julian Drazilov. That's who we have this week on our show. So, this is Julian.
Hi, Julian.
He's on the bottom quadrant of my screen. Julian Drazilov is an independent artist based out of, I don't know, London or Whitby, Ontario, depending on when you ask.
Dude, I'm gone. I'm out of London.
Oh, the GTA then. Sick. Alongside performing songwriting, Julian has extensive experience producing and recording music as well, having produced 4 solo records and in total having produced 10 albums outside of solo work. So that's like 14 albums.
Something like
that's
that.
kind of eclectic, dude.
Between like when did Unforgettable Events come out? 2015?
15 or 16, yeah.
Yeah, crazy.
And To Embrace to Move is to Move On. When did that come out?
A year after that. Almost exactly a year after.
And then same with like Somewhere Silent, Spices.
No, Somewhere Silent was a little longer. I think Somewhere Silent was 2018, and then Spices took the longest. It was 2020. Is
there a reason for that, or just like chilling?
No, I just got busier, like with school. Every year got tougher, so I just had less and less time to work on music.
Yeah. Do you think that's like affected your songwriting at all?
Kinda, yeah. Like I found like I couldn't really like vibe with it as much, right? Like get in and kind of spend a night to just like work on a song or whatever. So I kind of felt a little bit pieced together and not as coherent, but whatever. Just kind of get used to it, right? You listen to it back later and you're like, kind of works.
It's like you kind of fall into a groove of life too, I feel like, in that, I don't know, understanding things. But moreover, Julian also is producing and has produced our upcoming EP, Beef Wednesday, out June 10th. Another shameless promotion just because.
That's a tight record.
Well, it is our podcast.
Thanks, man. It's our podcast, so whatever. And Julian's latest Spices came out on May 10th. Also features Jake and I on some tunes. Right. Jake playing upright. I played drums on the song. It's kind of nice. And you can find Julian on the usual suspects streaming platforms.
I have the best contribution to that album.
No, actually, Nate's drums are. Not gonna lie.
no. My verse on Basil. Get the fuck out of here.
I mean, that's a pretty fucking tight part.
That's the only good song, and it's because of you two.
Not true. Garlic. Just understand why it's called Spices when you check it out. It's pretty dank. Not gonna lie.
True.
But we're probably gonna get into the conversational aspect of the podcast today now. And I guess I'll start with the first question. What you been up to since the pandemic started, man? Like, just trying to just keep the normal amongst chaos?
Well, it started during school, right? During the last semester. So finished up, kind of half-assed all my exams, but I got through it. I mean, it's hard to not. Like, what are you supposed to do when you're sitting at home online writing a quiz, like embedded in a browser? It's like, it's just not the same, right? Like, no matter how much effort you put in, it just doesn't feel right.
No.
But then other than that,
ghost-like.
Yeah. Other than that, I've just been like working and producing music. That's it. A little bit of landscaping up at Bree's place right now, actually.
That's awesome.
But no, I have actually been working like full time from home, and it's like I hate working from home. You know, I just want to go into an office or whatever, just go to a location.
From home.
I'm working at like a firm in Toronto doing like stock stuff.
Do you like it?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I'm by far like the biggest positive of it is I'm learning a lot. Like I straight up
the fucking
didn't know
Wolf of Whitby.
any of the terminology going into this, and I'm like, oh my god, there's like, I don't know, it's cool. It's like a whole little community in a sense. But yeah, so that's it. I've just been working and then doing a bit of music here and there. So I'm working on an EP right now. I don't know what to call it. It's got that temporarily named song Pickle Juice on it that you guys have heard, and I think it's gonna be tight.
Awful.
I renamed it that. Sorry, Mom.
That's right.
Since you brought up like an EP, I just thought of a question. Like, how do you decide that you want this to be an EP rather than just throwing it into a full length, rather than just releasing it as the single? Because I noticed that you did release a single on Bandcamp. That I don't know if it's not. So you released Basil and
Time.
The other one.
Time. Yeah.
Time.
Yeah.
As singles, and those are on Spices. But you have another single that's on Bandcamp.
Well, Life Moves Slower in the Snow is a single, but that's on Somewhere Silent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then there's the EP, that weird EP from that weird phase.
Yeah. So how did you decide, like right now you say you're working on an EP, how do you decide that this is going to be an EP rather than...
Okay, this sounds kind of bad, but it's like, if I have a handful of songs that I really like, I'm like, okay, I don't want to taint it. I'm just going to make it an EP, 4 or 5 songs because they're really good. Cool. When it's something like I'm working on Somewhere Silent or this or that, it's not really, it doesn't come together as an album until like a year after, right? It's just like I'm kind of writing things here and there, and I'm like, yeah, they're all mediocre songs, so I throw them together onto an album and call it done. And they just kind of happen to work out sonically. A lot of the time it's just like, oh man, this sounds like I wrote this album with intent, but I don't think I've ever done that. Maybe a little bit with Spices, a little bit. Mm-hmm. But honestly, it's just how I feel about them. So like I have 4 songs done now for this upcoming EP. Like I just have to record a few other things, but like they're done and they're structured. I really like them. So I'm like, I don't want to saturate it with any more, right? I want people to hear these 4 songs together and then be like, okay, cool, they're good, right? Cool. Not lose focus.
Yeah. I always appreciate EPs more when there's like a little bit more of a purpose behind them rather than,
yeah,
we're writing an EP. Then I start asking questions like, why don't you just work on a full length? Or
yeah.
Yeah.
This EP is just because I listened to a lot of Ovlov and Howdy, and I was like, yeah, I gotta write an EP like that. That's it.
So
I just don't have enough time to do a full length or effort. So.
Or effort.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, I feel like Punchu's just putting out an EP because we're trying to get music out quickly, you know.
But that's the logical first step,
which
right?
Makes sense. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, music release is necessary.
Yeah.
Also, another point that you just said that, like, okay, so you said that your albums end up being just like a bunch of songs that were just collected together, and you didn't really write them with the intent of being cohesive. Am I correct?
Yeah, although it's gotten less so like that.
So that's like, I find that interesting because that's something that's like I've always felt that way about Punchu, is that like our songwriting can go in so many different directions, and when we put together a set, it's just like, are we even thinking about a sound?
But you don't realize that it's there, right? Like until you step back.
Mm-hmm. And that was going to be my point, is once we do like put them together and I start to like notice things, especially when we like sit down and like post-pro and like start to add like harmonies and other just like textural stuff, like that's when I like start to notice that we do have a sound.
Yeah, it's maybe. Like, oh man, it's actually pretty cohesive.
Thinking about. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, never mind. Oh, sorry. I feel what you were saying on like almost stumbling upon the cohesiveness. Yeah. I kind of like that too. I feel that a lot.
Yeah, like with Unforgettable Events, right? Like when I put that, okay, first of all, it's the least cohesive album I have for sure, because there's like Jake death metal screaming on that one, and and then there's like If It Makes You Feel Any Better, you know, just completely different vibes. But it's like looking back still, it's like, you know what though, other than the odd few things that were just like very clearly garbage tracks that I didn't know what I was doing, I just wanted as long as an album as possible, so I put 14 songs on it. But it's like, looking back though, it's like actually the bulk of it does work as a sound, and I'd never thought that. I thought they were all so different and I was so unique, and it was such a cool album, and it wasn't. It was just like, oh man, this is just like
it is a great album. I love that album.
Yeah. But it's not as unique as
innovative.
I thought it was.
It was innovative for the time. It was very different from what we were all making.
Yeah.
Yeah. Happening and like.
Move on to like the next. Sorry, Nate.
That's okay, dude.
Cool. Can you
stick to the plan?
Can you talk a little bit about some inspirations that you have for just like music or like as a producer, both like
I was distracted by Nate's spray gun. Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, could you just talk about just like some musical inspirations you've had, both as a musician and producer, over the years, so like, and maybe how that's changed a little bit since you've started writing and producing music up until like now?
Sure. I guess like I've always really been attracted to lo-fi. I don't really know why, but I think it's like kind of listening to like My Bloody Valentine. I was really big into that kind of like lo-fi shoegaze kind of thing for a while. Because I just find it so warm and fuzzy, right? Like it just kind of like hugs your ears, and it's not really so much of like a sit down and pay attention to the song so much. I really like the idea of just having kind of like a blanket for your ears. So I got really into lo-fi, and that's just kind of what I've been drawn to. But then when I did that Raincoats and Cosmic Cigarettes, I was listening to a lot of like, I guess like, the Chilled Cow lo-fi hip hop, study stream or whatever. I was big into that for like a month. I was like, oh man, I gotta write stuff like this. And it was garbage. Yeah, I don't know. Like honestly, my inspiration overall has just been like make it sound natural and not I don't like I really it's gonna sound like pretentious, but I don't like the idea of like pop producing, of like producing for the radio or like for a listener, or trying to make things sound as good as you can. Like just make it sound what sounds good to you, right? Like I like when it comes to EQing a guitar,
individual AF.
Yeah, I have no idea what a normal guitar EQ is. Like I literally have never Googled it in my life. I don't use a preset guitar EQ. Yeah. I throw on EQ8 on Ableton and I boost some lows and some highs, and I'm like, okay, I like that sound, and then move on. I don't know if what I'm doing is proper, but it sounds good to me.
Style, dude. It really does. Like your songwriting to really blend with the way you produce things specifically. That's
why I like doing it like all one man from the beginning to the end, because I know what I want the final product to sound like. So I'm recording in a certain way and mixing in a certain way to lead up to the master, because I know how I master things, right? So I try to make it all work a certain way up until then.
You know the ingredients you need in that pot, boy.
Yeah, I know which spices to use.
Yeah, the spices.
I think I'd rather work with someone with that, like from a musician. I don't know almost nothing about EQing, but like from a musician working with someone who's mixing, I think I'd rather work with someone who's just like, I'm going to EQ it until I think it sounds good, rather than like someone who's like, I got to boost the highs at this specific amount of hertz.
Yeah, so because someone told me to.
Yeah, exactly. Because some like radio.
The radio, yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, it's silly.
So that kind of dips into what I was going to ask next. You want to kind of walk through like your songwriting process, since you do it all yourself and you do it kind of beginning with recording, like I'm sure guitar or some riff that you write, and then you build a song like that. I just kind of wanted to know what are like the limitations and advantages to doing that kind of songwriting, and like how do you know when a song's not working or if the energy's not there because you couldn't play it with a band beforehand?
Right. So I think I have a hiccup or a burp coming. Hold on.
Do them both.
It's like stuck halfway up. Anyways, when it comes to songwriting, I have the dumbest process, dude. Like when it comes to doing my solo stuff, because if we're doing, like back in the day doing Surf Cactus or whatever, it's like, oh, I came up with a riff, guys, let's build off of it. And within like 30 minutes, you've got a song, and it's like, cool. But when I'm doing it myself, I write a lot of like, I'm sure I write a lot of rhythmic stuff. I'm not really much of a lead or like melody kind of person. I like having the rhythm on the guitar worked out. So once I do that, I'll just hear it and I'll go, okay, cool. And then to answer the limitations and advantages, the advantage of that style, at least for me, I guess just naturally, once I write that guitar rhythmic part, I can hear the whole song fleshed out already with drums and with vocals. But the limitation is that I never hear the bass. Like I just can't do it. I'm really poor at writing bass. So that's always the last thing that I do. Like I'll do drums and guitar and everything. And I'll complete the song like fleshed out and vocals, and then I'll do bass after, which is like not cool. Like from most people's standpoint, that's the opposite of what you're supposed to do, right?
I always like, for me, it's kind of a general rule. Like my playing style is like I listen to the vocals and write bass off of that.
Oh yeah.
So unless it's some sort of like rhythmic part where it's like it's just required of the bass to like follow the drums or something like that. But yeah. That's always the way that I did it too. So
that's really interesting. That's kind of like thinking about just like, okay, the vocals is what's at the top, now I got to put what's at the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Especially because like when there's I know this is your interview, but when there's 2 guitars too, it's almost like the sonic space for doing something interesting is taken up. So it's kind of like you have to follow one of those. And
that's definitely a pitfall of recording like guitar forward stuff, which is usually what I do, right? Like I mean that's my primary instrument, so I write everything on guitar first, and that's definitely a pitfall because it's like I'll have a whole thing fleshed out, like start to finish, all these cool riffs, and I'm like, I left no room for anything interesting other than root notes, which is why I get you to write some of the bass parts because you come up with something fresh.
Do you when you start writing a song, do you know what the kind of vibe's gonna be? Because your music is very vibey. Like you kind of like develop a sound, like and it's all very different sometimes.
Yeah.
Do you know like what sounds are necessary or what kind of EQ is
immediately
necessary
beforehand?
Okay.
Yeah, so like right when I guess that just kind of comes with experience, but like because it's definitely easier now than it used to be, but I'll write a guitar part and like literally within 30 seconds I'm like, okay, I know exactly which guitar I want to record it on, like what amp and what EQ I want to use, and I'll set it up and I'll do it on the spot, because if I don't do it on the spot, I've got a terrible memory and I'm terribly lazy. So if I don't do it immediately, I won't do it like at all. So I'll just write a riff and I'll go, okay, cool. And that riff will sit, right, like in Ableton as a thing for like months. It'll just be a guitar bed track and nothing else. But the thing is, I don't record bed tracks. Like I do everything the way I want it from the beginning, right? So I'll record the guitar and I'm like, I like the sound of that guitar. I'm going to keep recording drums until the drums are perfectly on time with that original thing. Like I refuse to redo it, probably because of laziness, but also because I get really attached to the tone. Once I record it, I'm like, that's how I want it to sound. And I don't even remember what I did for it. So I'm not going to be able to recreate that. So it's probably not the most efficient or smartest way to do things, but it works for me.
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, dude.
Yeah, I guess. And in terms of vocals, they literally mean nothing to me. Like I don't care for lyrics. I don't care to write vocals. The only thing I care about vocals is for the like melodic harmonic component. I just want it to kind of carry the song. But honestly, I don't care for it. Like I like the timbre, right? I'm not going to go and be an instrumental band and record guitar of the line that I wanted for the vocals, because then I'm going to sound like Scale the Summit. I want the actual vocal timbre.
Oh,
they're a good band, but
good band.
Yeah.
All right, kind of.
That one guy's an asshole, apparently. Sorry.
It's all good. We're kind of moving off the topic of music here, but what kinds of things do you do that's not music related?
Ooh, nothing really. Yeah, I trade stocks. That's I watch financial news. And
wait, is that an honest answer?
Literally, yeah. Like that's I record music or I'm trading, and that's basically, I don't watch the news like any kind of mainstream. I just watch like financial news, just about companies and stuff and earnings reports. I honestly, it kind of sounds cynical, I just don't really care much for what's going on in the world. I just don't watch the news. I find it depressing and annoying and sensationalist. I don't really do much.
Well, especially these days, right?
Yeah.
It's all the same stuff, and it's everyone's saying something different, and
yeah, it's just putting a different spin on the same story over and over again, rinse and repeat. And I don't see anything positive, right?
Echo chambers too. It's a lot easier to get fall into that trap.
And I totally did. I was down like a stupid echo chamber in like second year and a little bit of third year.
That all your news only pertain to you, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I was like, this is dumb. I'm only seeing one opinion, and that's not even a good one.
I think that's a lot of that's not an issue for this podcast to talk about, but it's definitely that's a huge thing. That's a huge
absolutely.
Yeah, talk business now.
But short answer, I don't do much. Honestly, I really don't. Like I just try to take time to just relax. I do a little bit of meditation here and there in between trading stocks. Nothing much.
Talk to Lucas Wag about that.
Oh yeah?
Stocks, not meditation. Well, maybe, I don't know.
Oh. Okay. I was like, cool. Guy meditates. Tight.
I guess it's my question again. So I just wanted to ask about like being a hired producer and like mixing and mastering for people. Like what's been your experience so far with that? Like how many people have you worked with? Is it weird? Are people ever not happy with you or too happy with you? I don't know.
Definitely. Like I've had some people that aren't.
Tell those stories.
Yeah.
I want to
Well,
hear what you say there.
it's apples to oranges, like producing for you guys, right? Like, first of all, friends, known you guys forever, and we can sit down, aside from it being quarantine before that, we could sit down and, like, you know, in person, go over it, listen to the sounds, talk it out, and like literally change this. Do you like it? No. And then go back. No. And keep going. And that's ideal. And that's the best way to do it. The alternative is I'm working on Fiverr, like for commission. So people will put in an order. I'll either do 1 song or 5 songs, and there's no in between. It's just the way the site is set up. I've got like these different packages. But anyways, so some customers are great. They give me really good quality stems, and, you know, not a ton of them, right? Like they'll give me like 10 or 15 stems, like pretty easy to work with. And they'll say, I want this sound, and they'll send me some links to YouTube for inspiration. Like, I like these bands in terms of this sound. I want the guitar to be low in the mix and this and that. I'm like, perfect. Like, you can't make my job easier, right? And then I send it back and they say, okay, cool, I want this changed. And then we send it back and we keep going until they're happy. Good. There are other people that send me a pile of bad quality stems, garbage for lack of a better term, and they go, hey, can you make this sound good? And I'm like, not really. I mean, there's not much I can do with it, but I'll try. Like, people will send me a guitar track, and I'm not kidding. Like, if you put in like an EQ on it and you look at what frequency is playing, it's from like 1,000 hertz to 4,000 hertz and nothing else. There's no highs, no low. It's like, what did you record this through? And then they're like, and they don't give you any detail. Sorry?
Just a voice memo.
Voice memo. This little speaker they got right here.
Yeah. And like, there's no instructions. They're like, can you make it sound good? I'm like, okay, what exactly do you like? Do you want like a bassier mix, or what kind of? And I don't do like EDM or anything like that. I only commission like punk and lo-fi and indie and stuff, because that's what I like doing. Yeah, it's tough. And then I've had those people, they'll message me back like, I don't think it's really working out, man. Like, you know, it's hard for me to communicate what I want online. And it's like, I get that. Like, how do you expect to accurately tell someone the mix that you want through like chatting online every few hours? You can't sit down and do it with them live, right? So it's just, it's tough. It's definitely an obstacle. So it just depends on the person.
Yeah. Have you ever got some like gnarly messages from that?
No, people are really polite from my experiences.
That's good to hear. Like,
even when people like aren't happy, they're just like, you know, oh, sorry, man, like it's hard for me to communicate what I want. And it's like, it's totally understandable. So, which is probably just a polite way of saying I did a shit mix, but fair enough. You know, it's not everyone's taste.
Like a mixing OnlyFans.
I guess so. Sometimes I send them recordings of my feet rubbing together, just the sound of the friction.
It's the friction.
Yeah.
I call the track Tambourine 1.
For time's sake, do you want to skip to question 8?
What's that? You cut out.
For time's sake, do you want to skip to question 8?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. What are your short-term and long-term plans for your solo stuff specifically? We kind of already know what's up, but if you want to explain it to people.
What do you actually? You tell me. What is up?
Well, I mean, like, we've been jamming your songs.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so short term, I want to get this EP out actually pretty soon. Okay, so here's the idea for the EP. Okay, I'm willing to let this get out. It's all good. It's gonna be a secret EP. I'm not gonna post it. That's it. I'm just not gonna post on social media about it. I'm just gonna like distribute it, and nice, and just kind of put it on my Spotify and Bandcamp and stuff, and not tell anyone, and just like see organically who stumbles by it. I want to see the difference in streams, because I think personally, I think it's gonna be the best stuff I've ever written. So I'm excited to put it out there, and I want to see if people actually will stumble upon it, and like how followers work on Spotify, if that even works. I don't know. I think it's kind of like a little bit of experiment, because it's an EP. It's not too serious. So that'll hopefully happen within the next 3 months or something. And then long term, I just want to start playing my shit live. So I've got you boys helping me out with that, which is amazing. And yeah, I really want to start gigging again. I mean, one, for exposure, because of course I want people to hear my music. I'm not just you know, like doing it for no reason. Like I like my music. I think it's good. I want other people to hear it. And that's it. I just want to play. I just want to tour, and I want to see happy faces in the crowd. I miss it. I haven't played in so long. So, yeah.
It'll help just the music itself too, like the streams and the attention that you get. Like playing shows is like so important to like really get your music out there. So
I hope it helps writing too. Like I hope that I go like, oh, you know what? This song actually sounds better that we do it live because of this or this, and then I can start, using that to my advantage and start writing better stuff.
Yeah. I think it's good the way it is.
Okay.
All right, what's up next?
Do you have a favorite live show that you have either played or attended as an audience member?
I've had some bad live shows that I've attended.
But he asked which ones were your favorite.
All we can think of is the bad ones.
I think the favorite one that I've seen was probably American football recently, or Pine Grove. They were both like phenomenal live.
That's awesome.
Problem with Pine Grove was the opener was like quite a quiet and like intimate act, which was good. I thought he was very talented. He was a really good act, but a lot of people were like talking really loudly, and like there was this one dude in the crowd that every few minutes you just hear him yell, "Shh," and people would quiet down for like maybe 30 seconds. But yeah, and then like Evan, the singer of Pine Grove, had to come out in the middle of that guy's set and be like, guys, please be respectful. It's a quiet set. Because it was just a guy and a guitar, right? So it was a little bit awkward because of that, but Pine Grove killed it. It was really good.
Did you see them like when they recently came to Toronto? It was like only a few months ago.
No.
Or end of last year or something like that?
Yeah, like it was within probably a year. So
cool.
Yeah, it was probably the last time they came.
I wasn't into Pine Grove at that point, but I'm like really into Pine Grove now, and I'm just
they're insanely talented
that I didn't see them.
Yeah, Evan's an amazing songwriter for sure.
Yeah.
But then there's like drama with them, so I try to avoid, that community can be pretty
I've heard of that.
Pretty hostile. I mean that whole like scene, that like emo kind of whatever alternative music scene, like people are vicious, man. If there's like even the slightest bit of drama, it's ridiculous.
There's
That's funny that happened where the opener was like a super intimate that was at the Opera House, right?
I think so, yeah.
So that's when we saw Alex G. It was kind of the same situation. There was a middle act that was like acoustic, and everybody was just talking through it.
Who was it?
Like, I forget. I honestly don't remember.
Didn't you see a show with Bogues?
Yeah, we saw a show with Bogues.
That was like Delta Sleep, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys said that was like. Sorry.
Similar thing happened there actually too.
Yeah, it's tough. I saw a show with Bogues as well. It's the same situation. It's like some people just don't know, right? Like they don't really know what to expect, and they don't know their music. So they just talk over it.
That's why we play loud music.
Yeah, exactly. Drown them out.
Over Punchu.
Yeah. You don't even know if they're talking over whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Just make fun while they talk.
Oh, and best live show I've played is all of the Wasted Space shows. Love that place.
Oh, rest in peace.
Honestly.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
Yeah. Oh man.
That was a great place. Like just a little closet. It was all ages. So like all our 16-year-old bros could come.
Yeah.
And dudettes.
Just drink Red Bull and coffee.
That's right.
Make coffee with Red Bull.
Yeah, honestly. You get like hot chocolate at some points right before a set.
Yeah.
Damn.
And then that guy, the sound guy, was like, "Oh, are you guys gonna play that song this time?" It goes, I was like, "Oh, Old Lovers?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Do you know what the lyric is?" He's like, "Nah, but I love it." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool."
He's probably heard that song more than a lot of people.
For anyone who's listening and who's not like quite familiar with our background, Julian and Nate and Jake were in a band called Surf Cactus in high school that they put a lot of love into, and Nick and I hung out with them a lot, and that's kind of how we became as close as we are now. And that's what they're talking about. Surf Cactus used to play there.
Julian Gruzman was in that too.
And Julian,
yeah, that's right.
And now there's high demand for a show again.
Oh,
what, a Surf Cactus show?
Yeah. Apparently, we got some messages saying that it's time for another show.
Time for a reunion.
Yeah.
We'll do it at the Sinclair Courtyard.
Yeah. Oh,
We'll play the Sinclair Talent Show at Christmas.
That's quarantine, man. It's not happening.
Okay, so I think we're gonna wrap it up. thank you so much for joining us today, Julian.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah. You guys can support Julian by following him on. Do you have a music thing on Facebook? I didn't check.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay, so
it's just my name.
Okay, cool. So follow Julian on Facebook and Instagram. Check him out. I'm gonna say on Bandcamp just because I think Bandcamp is really cool.
Super tight.
Definitely download the WAV files.
Yeah. My new album's free on Bandcamp.
Oh, amazing. So
freedom.
Definitely check out Spices anywhere you can stream music, but you can also download in WAV form on Bandcamp, but also buy his other albums because that would be really cool. Yeah, you can also help support this podcast and Punchu by subscribing, following us on Facebook or Instagram, and we also have 2 singles out that you can stream anywhere. We're also on Bandcamp. Add us to your playlist. That would be cool.
Also, Julian will produce your music, so hit him up on Fiverr, you said?
Fiverr.
Nah, don't do that.
No?
Hit him up on Fiverr.
You won't work?
No, the majority of it's bad.
Let us know.
Okay.
Let us know if there's anyone that you want us to see being interviewed or be on a show or whatever. Thank you so much for watching. We'll name it on the pod. We're Punchu. That's Julian Drazilov. Happy Beef Wednesday.
Cheers, guys.
See you next week.
See ya.
This is where the real podcast begins.
That's right. So what are you guys up to these days?
I'm so wet, dude.
He's
Dude, me
wet,
too. Look, I
dude.
got it all over.